Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be talking about the English Special Booster 1 version of Rookie Rush. So Rookie Rush, for those who don't know, the deck's description is basically in the title. You're trying to essentially aggro the opponent down using almost nothing but rookies. This is a very powerful strategy for a couple of different reasons. The first big reason is that you are less prone to having bad hands because everything in your deck is the rookie class, or almost everything in your deck is the rookie class, and all of those cards you generally are going to be playing rather than digivolving into most of the time. The deck has a lower chance of having those bad hands where you just don't necessarily see the ability to have efficient or effective openers. On top of which, another big factor that is what makes this deck very powerful is the fact that all of your rookies are very cheap and efficient to play. So you are essentially trying to also figure out a way to leave your opponent with as little memory as you possibly can, so that way it makes them playing things that much harder because you're leaving them with almost nothing to work with. And then the last big thing that the deck is doing that's making it so powerful is the fact that you are going for a more quantity of attacks over quality of attacks. So you don't necessarily care if your Digimon are going to be living or dying through security checks. Obviously, living through security checks is more ideal than dying, but the whole point is you are getting those security checks as quickly and efficiently as you possibly can. So those are the big factors into what makes Rookie Rush so powerful. So let's just dive right into the deck. First up, I'm running 4 copies of Upamon. So Upamon is a really solid Digitama in which it has the inheritable effect of when attacking, once per turn, if your opponent has a Digimon with no Digivolution sources in it, then you get to draw 1 card. Obviously, we're going to be attacking a lot, so it's not like that ability is that hard to get off, and if the opponent is trying to race us, then they're eventually going to have a Digimon without Digivolution sources, and what is really important about Upamon is the fact that he allows us to draw cards, because one of the big weaknesses to Rookie Rush is the fact that it does not have a whole lot of card draw because we're not digivolving to draw cards. We'll generally run out of cards really quickly, and having a Digitama to help us draw cards is very good for the deck because that helps keep us going and keep up the pressure. Next up, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Frimon. So this is in here just as the 5th Digitama of the deck. You really don't need to run a 5th Digitama. Upamon is probably more important and it's probably more efficient to play the deck without a 5th Digitama. But I just find the aspect and the possibilities of Frimon to be really interesting, in which it has this inheritable effect where during your turn, if your opponent has 2 or more suspended Digimon, then this Digimon gets plus 2000 DP. So that plus 2000 DP can help us win certain security checks, which is very good, considering we want our Digimon ideally to live through security checks, but the chances of that happening are still very low. But a card like this definitely helps us win some security checks. But again, the deck doesn't really need to run it, it's just in here as the 5th Digitama. Next, onto the rookies. I'm running 4 copies of Muchomon. So Muchomon is a really interesting rookie in which he has the ability during both players' turns, your opponent can't gain memory except by tamer effects. So this is just a very powerful ability to have because it effectively can lock the opponent out of being able to gain memory, and as we're leaving them with as little memory as possible, they need to try to gain as much memory as possible so that way they can make more efficient and effective plays. And a card like Muchomon helps shut those types of strategies down so that way we could have just more pressure on board. Next, I'm running 4 copies of Armadillomon. So Armadillomon is just a really solid rookie because it is very cheap to play with some relatively high DP. We're not exactly always looking to digivolve into it because its digivolution cost is a little bit higher, but that trade-off does come with a nice boost in DP. So really, Armadillomon is in here just because low play cost, high DP. Next, I'm running 4 copies of Elecmon. So Elecmon is just your value vanilla. Very cheap to play, cheap to digivolve into, with some decent DP to back it up. Next, I'm running 4 copies of Gabumon. So Gabumon is in here because he has this nice on-play ability. We get to draw 1 card. So again, the deck does tend to lack some natural card draw because we're not really digivolving a whole lot. So any way that we could draw cards is very, very good for the deck. And Gabumon is just a fantastic card at drawing us cards. Next, I'm running 4 copies of Bearmon. So Bearmon is just a solid rookie overall because he is very, very cheap to evolve into. So this is probably our primary target we want to digivolve Upamon with. And then the play cost is just about average, so it's not like he's that hard to play either, but he does have some of the slightly higher DP for the rookie level. Next up, I'm running 4 copies of Goblimon. So Goblimon is in here for the exact same reasons as Elecmon. It's just a value rookie. Next, I'm running 4 copies of Mushroomon. So Mushroomon is in here for the exact same reasons as Armadillomon. Same stat line, so we're really just looking for that low play cost and high DP. Next, I'm running 4 copies of Tapermon. So Tapermon is in here for a very similar reason why Gabumon is in here, because he allows us to draw a card, except this time his condition to allow us to draw a card is on deletion, which is not necessarily the worst thing in the world because most of the time we're just using him to attack into the opponent's security, and we're not going to be winning a lot of security checks. So there is a very, very high chance that he's going to end up being deleted on the security check, which then would allow us to draw a card. But again, Tapermon is in here because he says draw a card, and drawing a card is very, very important for the deck. Next, I'm running 2 copies of Muchomon. So Muchomon is in here because he is currently one of the few rookies with the highest DP that rookies can get. And it's not like he's that much more inefficient to play versus all of the others. He's still in that normal realm of playing. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Kudamon. So Kudamon is in here because he is another rookie that allows us to draw cards, except his condition is on attacking, and we have to have 4 or less cards in our hand. Well, if we're not really drawing a whole lot due to not digivolving a whole lot, then it is very easy to get 4 or less cards in our hand. So that's just what makes his ability really, really good to help us draw cards. And then the only Mega of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Puppetmon. So Puppetmon is just an absolutely fantastic card for the deck. So Puppetmon has an on-play ability, which means we're not really going to be digivolving into him. We rather get that on-play ability, so we'd rather play him as he is. And what his on-play ability does is we get to suspend one of our opponent's Digimon, and then during the opponent's next unsuspend phase, none of the opponent's Digimon can unsuspend. So basically, what Puppetmon really does is he locks down the opponent's Digimon from being able to unsuspend or stand up or become active. And because of that, it allows us to apply even more pressure onto the opponent because we could get some of our attacks through uncontested. And because he's also suspending one of the opponent's Digimon down, we could rest something like a blocker down, or we could rest something that would deal lots of security damage, so that way we could potentially win the damage race. And then he also, on top of all of that, has this nice little when attacking ability of allowing us to gain 1 memory, which we could then use to efficiently and effectively play more of our cards. So overall, Puppetmon is just an absolutely fantastic card for the deck. And then as far as options go, I'm running 4 copies of Hammerspark. So Hammerspark is a very, very cheap option to play in which it costs nothing, and what it does is it allows us to gain a memory. So this is just very good for very similar reasons why we like the on-attacking ability of Puppetmon, where we could use that 1 memory to make some of our plays more efficient, on top of which it has this very nice security effect where we could gain 2 memory. So if the opponent is already going to be deprived of a lot of their resources, attacking into our security, revealing a Hammerspark, could be absolutely brutal for the opponent, forcing them to end their turn. And even if it doesn't force them to end their turn, it's still taking away effectively 2 of their memory, making their turn even harder to play more efficiently or optimally. And then the last card of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Flower Cannon. So Flower Cannon is another option card that is very, very powerful and does something we really, really want to see, which is suspending one of our opponent's Digimon down. This is really important because we need a way to get past those pesky blockers. Flower Cannon is just a very, very efficient card to allow us to get past those blockers. On top of which, Flower Cannon also has this really nice security ability where if it's revealed in our security, we get to suspend all of the opponent's Digimon without blocker. So basically, it helps us during the opponent's turn by effectively making it so all of their remaining attacks basically don't happen. So this card is just very, very good both on the offense and the defense, and it's very cost efficient to play, which is why we run it. And then in terms of other cards you could potentially play in the deck, if you just wanted to go for a 5th Digitama that's more in line with your main color, you could currently play Wanyamon. So Wanyamon is a pretty decent Digimon where it's very, very similar to Frimon, where it'll give plus 2000 DP during your turn, but the condition for this one is that the opponent needs to have 2 Digimon with no Digivolution sources in play, which I personally think is a little bit harder to see than having the opponent have 2 rested Digimon down. But if you're going for more of a mono-blue Digitama lineup, then Wanyamon is definitely a very good option. You could also think about running Gatsumon. So Gatsumon is a blocker in the rookie level. So just having a blocker could be decent. I personally think that the deck is more of an aggro deck, so it doesn't necessarily really want or need the use of a blocker. But if you feel like you just want to have a blocker, Gatsumon is a fantastic option. You could also think about running Chimeramon. So Chimeramon's pretty interesting of a choice because of his removal ability. So we could combo this with Tapermon, or if we already had an attacked Digimon and it managed to live through a security check, then we could use that to potentially use as fodder for Chimeramon. But basically, the only real reason that we would even think about playing Chimeramon is because of his when played ability to essentially delete one of the opponent's level 5 or lower Digimon. So he allows us to remove a very big potential threat off of the opponent's field, so that way we could, again, continue with some of the pressure. Similar reason to why you would want to run Chimeramon, you could also run Skullgreymon. So Skullgreymon is just another really solid option because he is another ultimate with an on-play effect, so we don't really need to Digivolve up into him to get the effect off. But what Skullgreymon does is he has the ability to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with blocker. So if we really need a way to delete the opponent's blocker, then you could possibly run Skullgreymon as a way to get rid of those pesky blockers. And then as far as tamers go, I know you think 4-cost tamers are going to be a little too expensive for the deck, but if you really wanted to, you could run Tai Kamiya from the starter deck, because he just has this nice passive where during your turn, all of your Digimon just get plus 1000 DP. It's not color locked, it's not color restricted, it's just I sit on the field and all my Digimon get plus 1000 DP, which 1000 DP in this deck, it could help you win more security checks than not. So it's not like running Tai would be a bad thing at all. On top of which, he even has a nice security effect like all tamers, where you get to play this card for free without paying its cost if it's in your security. So it's just a very, very cheap and efficient card that you could think about playing. But for the most part, this is just kind of what Rookie Rush is. It's just a very aggressive deck where you just play a whole bunch of rookies and try to efficiently and effectively deal your opponent as much damage as you can. That's kind of all I really have for this deck profile. As always, I'll have the deck list down in the description below, and tell me your thoughts about the deck in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I will see you in the next video.